bring you this afternoon's news in brief, live here on Channel 44, both locally and internationally. We'll start with our local news with the spiraling, the previous scandals and viral videos that were awash in the media about the ugly experiences of corruption at the immigration offices at the airport, Entebbe International Airport. At least 5 security personnel have been arrested in connection with the trafficking of drugs worth billions of dollars. This was after a multi-security agency investigation into an international drug ring seized the drug and traced them to the 5 suspects. The suspects include immigration officers from the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration Control, Civil Aviation Authority staff, as well as intelligence officers from ISO and ESO. When contacted, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, whose spokesperson Simon Mudai confirmed the arrest of their staff but declined to divulge further details. Well, we'll be bringing you details of that story in our news at 6 p.m. in our local news bulletin. Right now, allow me to take you straight into our international news in brief. The UN Secretary General has urged M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo to respect a ceasefire agreement set to come into effect on today. Antonio Guterres has welcomed regional and international efforts led by the Angolan president and the African Union to try to stop a conflict that has displaced hundreds of thousands already. Hours before the ceasefire brokered by Angola takes effect, heavy fighting between the Congolese army and the M23 group has continued in the North Kivu province. The UN Secretary General has condemned all violence against civilians and urged all armed groups to lay down their weapons and disarm unconditionally. Mr. Guterres has asked the M23 to honor a pledge to cease hostilities to facilitate full and effective withdrawal from areas it has occupied, some near Goma, the biggest city in the east of the country. The ongoing conflict has displaced hundreds of thousands in the past years and led accusations that Rwanda is funding the rebels, which Kigali denies. And still in Africa, the World Bank has suspended talks over its future engagement with Tunisia following President Kais Saied's recent criticism of sub-Saharan migrants. The outgoing head of the bank, David Malpass, said Mr. Said's remarks have triggered racially motivated harassment and even violence in Tunisia. He described the situation as deeply concerning, but added that recent steps by the Tunisian government to support migrants were positive. On Sunday, President Said Kayed denounced racism, despite making comments last month that African immigrants were part of a plot to change Tunisia's demographic profile. Elsewhere, dozens of people have fallen sick in coastal villages in the Philippines after a major oil spill from a sunken tanker. The empty Princess Empress was carrying 800,000 liters of industrial fuel oil when it sank off the coast of Oriental Mindoro province last week. That oil has since reached the shores of several nearby fishing villages, coating beaches in black sludge. Residents have reported experiencing cramps, vomiting, and dizziness. Cleanup workers deployed to the affected areas of Pola have also reported feeling ill, according to reports from local media. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that an independent special rapporteur will probe alleged Chinese interference in their recent elections. The appointed investigator will review classified reports about the 2019 and 2021 federal elections and will make recommendations for future contests. Rival political party leaders have called for a public inquiry. China has denied any election interference, calling the claims purely baseless and defamatory. Speaking to reporters on Parliament Hill in Ottawa yesterday, Mr. Trudeau said the reports challenging Canada's sovereignty are alarming and strikers could strike us to our very core as Canadians. A search is underway for 4 U.S. citizens kidnapped in northeastern Mexico last week after apparently getting caught up in a shootout which left 1 Mexican dead. They were driving through Matamoros in a white minivan when unidentified gunmen opened fire. Video shows them being put into a pickup truck by heavily armed men. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says the Americans crossed the border to buy medication, but his statement was not confirmed by U.S. officials who have not named the 4 people missing. In the United States, Georgia police have filed terror charges against 23 protesters accused of attacking officers at an event against a planned police training site. Police said the group left the larger protest to throw large rocks, bricks, Molotov cocktails and fireworks at officers and construction equipment. Hundreds of people attended a concert at the construction site on Sunday, and 35 were arrested amid violent clashes. The planned training center in Atlanta has been dubbed Cop City by critics. Critics say the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center with fuel police brutality and also uses valuable forest land owned by the city of 6 million people in Atlanta. Mexican officials have found more than 340 people in an abandoned truck trailer in the state of Veracruz, including 103 unaccompanied minors. The migrants were from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Ecuador. It is one of the biggest recent discoveries of migrant children traveling through Mexico. All appeared unharmed, and the trailer had fans and ventilation ports, according to officials. The driver's whereabouts are unknown. Fleeing poverty and violence in Central America, many undocumented migrants end up paying huge sums of cash to people smugglers to end them across the U.S. To get them across the U.S. border. And dozens of bushfires are burning across Australia's east coast could get worse with a severe heat wave as a severe heat wave continues, according to fire services. After 2 years of rains and floods, a return to warmer conditions has sparked New South Wales state's worst fires since the 2019-2020 Black Summer. A blaze of 250 kilometers, which is 155 miles northwest of Sydney, triggered the region's first emergency fire warning in 2 years. Firefighters reported battling 10 to 15 meters high flames. Residents in affected areas across the New South Wales, Australia's most popular state, have been urged to evacuate, and there are reports of damage to some properties. Well, that brings us to the end of this afternoon's News in Brief. Thank you for watching Channel 44. I remind all of us, men and women, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow Pastor Jessica Kayanja is inviting all of us to come and join her in a national prayer day. It's a day of pulling down altars. It's a public holiday. It's the Women's Day, the International Women's Day. Well, there is no better place to spend your holiday than in the presence of God. Blessing destiny for your family and your future children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So come, let's pull down altars. Let's break those covenants that were made that we know and we do not know. It's going to be a power-packed day. There's going to be great praise and worship. Come fasted. Come ready to pull down every altar that has set itself in your family, in your life. There are things that happen to you and you do not know why they happen. You do not know how they even happen. Many battles we wage are spiritual. So we invite you, come and join us. Pastor Jessica Kayanja, the woman of God, will be leading us, and our lives will not remain the same again. There will be breaking the fast in the evening with a sumptuous meal prepared by Pastor Jessica Kayanja that you also do not want to miss. Come and experience a great time in the presence of God. And I also remind you that we are having a revival service this evening. Dream interpretation. Pastor Robert Kayanja will be with us, ministering to us, and our lives will not remain the same again. Pastor Dr. Jessica Kayanja is up next with the lunch hour program as she continues to teach us and lead us in spiritual warfare. Do not touch your dial and enjoy your afternoon.